Don't you want to say something about it?
Yeah.
All right.
No, you have.
Okay, I'm Pat from Our Revolution, Montgomery County, so I need to be here.
Hold the microphone.
I need to. Sorry, I'm Kat from Our Revolution, Montgomery County, I'm the co-chair. I'm. And we'll have a question and answer after they introduce themselves. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ethan Westlock. I am running for Congress in Maryland's 6th. I'm challenging April Blaney, who's the current incumbent. I look young. I embrace that. I am older than I look, but I'm a father of 3 daughters. I've lived in Montgomery County for over 15 years. And I live in the district. That's one of my redeeming qualities. I actually live in the 6th district in Clarksburg. But I came from a background in consulting, working with the federal government. Over the years, I spent most of that time in healthcare, 9 years working on the Affordable Care Act directly, 2 years at the VA, a number of years working with Medicare and at the FDA as well. You see a lot when you're in that environment and you see what works. You also increasingly see the dysfunction that goes on. I was, on the ground working the Affordable Care Act through the first Trump administration. And I saw how it was gutted and I saw how it was weakened. And then being at the VA at the start of the Trump administration here and seeing the changes. When the current Congress came in, I had this perhaps false sense of optimism that, okay, kind of seen some of this before, and maybe people are going to rise to the moment, rise to the occasion, and fight. And I became increasingly disappointed with the reaction and response, both locally, where some of our representatives, and then across the country. And so I started asking myself, what can I do? How can I tackle this? What is my, is it just going out into the community and doing stuff, fighting back, protesting? Or is there more for this for me? And ever since I was a little kid, being in Congress has always been my dream. Never aspired to be president. I know a lot of people, kids grow up and say, oh, I can't wait to be president. I want to live in the White House. Never me. I don't want to be president. I've always wanted to be in Congress. I've always wanted to legislate. I've always wanted to make a difference in policy. So I started thinking about this. Is that a possibility? Do I want to go to Congress? Do I want to look at something less? And I started asking friends and family. And I kept hoping like, maybe someone's going to talk me out of this. Maybe someone's going to say, no, don't do this. I got the opposite response from everyone I talked to. And it became increasingly obvious to me that the moment called for something more than what we're getting. So I decided to run. I decided that we need people in Washington who are going to fight. And they're not just going to say they're going to fight, they're actually going to fight. They're actually going to get out into the community and do things that the moment calls for. And not just go out and take pictures and then leave. And not just record videos standing somewhere and talking about something, but not actually making a difference in moving the needle. I'm not interested in press about what I do. Honestly, the less headlines about me, the better. Unless it's because I did something, unless it's because I made a difference. And that's just what I want to do. Come from a family of public servants, military, and people who worked in government. And that's how I was raised. I was raised to give back. Yeah.
Hi everyone, and Assalamu alaikum. Happy Ramadan to all those who are practicing it. My name is Arif Ali, and I'm running for Montgomery County Council at Large. I'm an immigrant. I came to America back in 2020, just before a week of the national lockdown. I did struggle a lot when I came, not only me and also like my neighbors and my community members. I came and with 11 family members, including me, and we were put in 3 apartment bedroom with no direction. Of course, it was pandemic and everything was shutting down. even though we did not even had a notebook and a pencil to do something. So I think so I did struggle a lot back home. I was a senior in my high school, but I was of course pushed to repeat my high school journey again, and I did finish it in 3 years. And I got me and my siblings. We all applied to a lot of good colleges, and we made it to University of Maryland, College Park. However, while being in high school, like I did encounter a lot of different issues, especially with the immigrant and minorities, that they were not coming to schools just because of their language and their culture, and there was no one to speak up for them. There were families who were getting evicted, and probably like as Ethan mentioned, people would come and take pictures and videos and not do anything for them. And I don't want to be someone like that. And I also like while being in high school, and I saw that there's been a lot of issues. I established an organization called International Sports Organization, where I brought all these families together. I didn't went for money, but instead I went for the community, and we provided like free sporting mentoring and counseling services, and of course sporting programming. Totally free, so that we can bring all these different communities together by providing them all these opportunities. And I'm proud to say that we have served and currently serving like over 1,000 plus students from Montgomery and all over the DMV area. And 96% of our students who were once struggling in English, their fourth, fifth, third language, now they are being in honor roll. And each year, more than 30% of our students, they get into colleges with full rights. And all these services are totally free. No one stood up for them, no one spoke for them. I did went and begged a lot of people and requested them, except Montgomery County Recreation Department. No one has stood up and no one did anything. And that's why I decided to come and be a leader for them and also like raise their voices, because every day what I witness is totally like a tragedy for me. And I've seen a lot of people getting evicted and other reasons too, that no one can hear them. Like we definitely need to hear them. They belong to this county, and they are the future of this county, even our youth. And apart from that, another thing which inspires me, and I want to inspire other people, that our young people needs to be involved in local politics, because currently what we are seeing and the international level is just because not a lot of people voted. And if they did vote it, some of them they just made, I would say, in my opinion, bad decisions. But I want to stand up for my communities, and I did faced a lot of hardship. And I'm a servant, and I want to continue working for my community. And I mean that's pretty much it. And I'm hoping to achieve all these goals by getting elected, and also like working for them and bringing the diversity to Montgomery County and looking after my people. Thank you.
We're going to open it up to questions. If anyone in this room has a question, or anyone on the Zoom, put it in the chat, and our candidates hopefully will answer them. Any questions in here?
Well, yeah. I'll go. So let me go to Ethan first. We were reporting and. Hey, I'm sorry, this is Hal from Revolution, Montgomery County. Let me start with Ethan. Ethan, you are running for Congress D6, and that is against McLean, Delaney, and Trump. If you are elected, we saw today two great activists, advocates for peace, getting arrested aggressively by Metropolitan Police Department, not even ICE. As a federal elected, what steps would you try to take? How would you try to prevent these types of outrages from occurring?
Yeah, that's a great question. Freedom of expression, the First Amendment, is cornerstone of democracy. I was actually just talking with someone today about that, because worried about the increasing ICE presence in Maryland. And they were saying that they're out of state, but they have family members locally who does a lot of activism work, and they're saying, well, I'm worried about them. I'm worried that they're going to be a target, and what's going to happen. And we have to protect the right to protest. We have to protect the right to speak out. It's just been fundamental to our identity and our country. And so whatever I can do to protect that, whether it's just being a resource. I've told people, countless people, reach out to me. I'm happy to help however ways I can now currently, but in Congress, it's continued to advocate for protecting the First Amendment.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out. So I lived in Congressional 6 for most of my life. I no longer do, sadly. But in 2014, a candidate emerged and ran in 2018 who had strong ties to the Hindu nationalist lobby, both in the United States and abroad. Her name is Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller. She's been put on record now in I can't count how many news publications. The Internet, the Intercept, Independent of London, Salon, Slate, Huffington Post, for being an avowed Hindu nationalist and then lying on it about it on the record. Can you assure us of two things? One, that you will never call Narendra Modi a rock star, which is her famous quote from 2014. And two, that you will not appoint a Hindu nationalist to be your campaign treasurer or take any money from them.
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is for Arif, first things first, I just want to say thank you both for being here tonight, but my question is for Arif and to provide context. Recently, the county executive had a town hall regarding data centers, specifically putting a data center complex where the old Dickerson site is. And there was a lot of community feedback basically saying we don't want the data center here. So can you please have a moratorium because data centers suck up a lot of they cause a lot of damage to the environment and they also are messing up our water supply. So the question I have it's a two-part question. One is where do you stand on the issue of building a data center complex in Montgomery County? And the second part of the question is if you're elected to a county council, would you agree to a moratorium on data centers until it's decided whether or not we don't need them here, or if there are going to be a data center here, there's one that actually doesn't disrupt our environmental goals?
Okay. Personally, I'm not in support of having data center because we are not ready yet for that. And as you mentioned, that it's going to be harmful for the environment and also like the neighborhood that people are currently living in. Yes, we are planning on having all these different data centers and all these different plans, but what are our plans and what are we doing like to protect the people? Because as you mentioned, it's not only harmful for like the environment, but it's also harmful for the humans that they're currently living in. And while canvassing, I did also spoke with a lot of people and they did showed a lot of like concern regarding that how much are we prepared for such a action or such a decision. So I definitely do not support that, and I think so before we have all those things we definitely need to have plans for it because it's harmful for the environment, water, humans, and animals, and I'm not in support of that. And also for the second question, I do not agree with it as of now because we are not ready for it.
Okay, I have a question in the Zoom. From Margaret, do you accept monies from? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree with what's been said. I will say that, in addition to Dickerson, there's also currently existing data centers in Adamstown in Frederick County. And the Frederick County is also pushed to expand and grow that. That's one of the areas where I divulged from the Moore administration on it. Westmore had passed exemptions for diesel generators. So people talk about, oh, clean energy for data centers. Well, they still have to have diesel generators for backup, right? And so the minute those kick in, they spew diesel exhaust into the air, which is a problem. AI is a bubble. It's going to burst. And we're going to build out all these data centers and it's going to burst. And then what's going to happen? And I draw a hard line with big tech on that. Big tech doesn't like me. I've said I will refuse to take money from big tech. And they know it. So I'm gonna agree on this one.
Okay. There's a question from Margaret in the chat. She asked, do either of you take money from foreign entities?
Absolutely not. I was endorsed by Track APAC, so I have refused to accept any and all money from anyone associated with the Israeli government. foreign money does not belong in American politics. This is an American issue, and no foreign lobbyist or foreign government can no one can buy me, but especially with them.
Yeah, I agree with Ethan. I do not take money from foreign entities, and even though I was called and offered a lot of money, that the 20,000 which qualifies me for the public finance would be done in just a matter of days, and I just refused it, and I said I can't take any money from entities and from people which are involved with genocide.
Hi. This is Ashley. I don't know if you just answered it, but this only applies to RF. Did you, in that answer, are you working on are you running with the public finance campaign system? And if not, why?
I'm running with the public finance.
This is for Ethan, and I brought it to your attention, or we brought it to your attention, but I don't know if you knew before. You're running against David Trome, and he makes some of his money by selling wine. He has a Total Wine. About a month ago, I was with a friend, and we just wanted to see what was there, and we saw an aisle of Donald Trump wines. Are you planning on making an issue of this to show the hypocrisy of one of your opponents?
Yeah, I'd have to talk to my campaign staff about exactly how to, and one of them may be watching. So if Seth is watching, he might want me to be careful about how I comment on that. Yes, I think it is hypocrisy. Considering his position is so strong on fighting Trump, that seems to be his only campaign platform is fighting Trump. It's not the only hypocritical statement from candidates in this race across the spectrum. The current incumbent, her husband made his fortune in the banking industry and is currently chairman of a bank, and she releasing statement about regulating banks this morning. So I'm curious to see how she's going to dovetail regulating banks when her husband just announced an IPO for his bank. So there's a lot at stake in this race and a lot of commentary. But this is what happens when wealthy people and corporations dominate our government. You get things like that. They will always be motivated by profit and the bottom line. I'm not motivated by that. I don't have a large alcohol retailer. I'm not married to a spouse who, is chairman of a bank. So I am motivated by people in the room, people in the community, and I respond to them, not Wall Street.
Okay, gonna thank you. I don't see any more questions. Oh,
Hello. You were pretty good as far as your general positions. If you had to take, both of you, two things that differentiate you from the other candidates, what makes you special?
I think one of the things goes back to what I just said. My first concern is the people, not I don't have a stock portfolio that I worry about. And so, what differentiates me from my opponents is I'm not in this for campaign press. I'm not in this for the photo ops. I'm in this to run because I care for people. I care to give back to the community. A couple of weeks ago, I was out driving looking for ICE agents because someone gave me a tip that ICE was in Montgomery Village, and I wanted to go out and make sure my community was safe. And I don't think you're going to see other people in this race who are willing to go out and do that. So I'm here because I want to be here because I care. I'm not in it to try to profit off of being in public service. And so that's one of the other big differentiators, I think, for me. I think the other one is a lot goes on in politics where there's not transparency. in government. Things happen, you know, in backroom deals. There's a lot of handshakes, and I hate that, frankly. I know hate maybe is a strong word to say, but we need to increase accountability, increase transparency in government, and move things out of the shadows. And I think that's where I stand separate from my opponents. You know, both of them have served in office. It's very unique across the country to be running against what's essentially two incumbents, and we've seen their record and we've seen what they've done. And neither one of them have been transparent. Neither one of them have been open and held themselves up to a high standard of accountability. I will. And that's something that, you know, I've told people when I've talked to them, they said, well, I called them and they got mad at me for raising a point. I said, I'm not going to get mad at you for saying anything to me. If I screw up, pick up the phone, call me, you know, and let me know. I'm probably going to be disappointed if I find out that you're mad at me and you didn't tell me. But I want to know. I want to hear and I want to understand. I may make mistakes, so I'm not going to promise to be the perfect candidate. But if I do make a mistake, tell me, let me know, and I'll do better. That's the promise that I can make. But we've seen the record from my opponents, and I don't think they've done that. So I think that's where I stand separate.
These were some great answers by Ethan. Personally, for me, I'm a people's candidate, and I've been connected with the people and I have listened to them. I have raised their concerns. I have been out there with everyone, whether I'm in office, even though I'm not in office, I was always there for the people and I never waited and would not wait for myself to become a candidate or a council member to stand up for my people. Regardless of the office, I would always go and stand up for the people as I'm already doing with currently what I'm doing with the community, making them going and making sure that their problems are resolved and there are people to talk to and hear them out, because sometimes what we are missing here is like the candidates, yes, when it's election time, it's very easy to hold them accountable and also like talk to them because they are always looking to get your vote and to get the pictures and videos, and I'm not one of them. I always go and stand up for the people. Yes, pictures and videos are good for a lot of purposes, but no, I want to make sure that I stand for my people, next to the people that they're like they need help. Like last week, like there were 45 families evicted from enclave, and like approximately 45 families, and there was no one to stand with them. So I want to make sure that I deliver for the people, stand up for the people, listen to them, and make sure that they are getting what they are supposed to be getting, and everyone has an opportunity to build a life here in Montgomery County. That's what I will stand on. And again, not every candidate is perfect. And of course, like this is what when I go and out and canvas with people, I do share my brochure with them, and I do promise them that whatever I have wrote here, I'm gonna stand up on it. But at the same time, I would need my colleague support, because Montgomery County on each bills there needs to be a voting criteria, and then that's how each bill is passed. So that's what kind of makes me different. I didn't wait it for the office time. I'm already in the service.
Just very quickly, I'm gonna let our co-sponsor, introduce herself and her website.
I think so. They have question, Kat.
I'm gonna do this very quick and then I'll get back to
Sure.
her, so she can do that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be here today to introduce the Save America from Hindutva campaign, a nationwide initiative to raise awareness about the growing influence of Hindutva ideology in the United States. Hindutva is not a religion. It is a political ideology rooted in exclusion and supremacy. Our campaign exists to help people understand this distinction and to build solidarity in defending pluralism, democracy, and civil rights. Over the past 3 years, this campaign has grown into a truly national effort. We have organized panel discussions across the country in St. Louis, Dallas, Washington, D.C., Maryland, San Antonio, and other cities, bringing together scholars, human rights defenders, and community leaders. We have been honored to host some of the most respected voices on this issue, including Professor Audrey Trushke, Peter Friedrich, Sunita Vishwanath, Dr. Rangana Chatterjee, our very own Susan Caron, and many others who have courageously spoken out for justice and truth. Today, our work is entering an important new phase. We are organizing a congressional briefing to highlight a deeply concerning issue, India's transnational repression activities inside the United States. This is not just a foreign policy concern, it is a matter of American sovereignty, safety, and constitutional rights. Our goal is simple, to educate, to build awareness, and to ensure that the values of democracy, pluralism, and freedom remain protected here in America. Thank you for being a part of this important effort. I have just set up a table there. Please, you can come and take some educational material. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're supposed to be one more question out here? Yes. Oh, Joe?
You can go first if you want.
Okay,
I guess. All right. Microphone's here. So my question is kind of a general question. I think, all of us in this room and across the country, we're like, we're watching our government being destroyed by the Trump administration and in so many ways. I mean, if I start to list them, we would be here till tomorrow morning. But so we all dream for when we get back into power, we're going to fix everything. So my question is, to what extent are you going to bring things back to the way they were? And to what extent would you make things better? In other words, take the opportunity of the crisis to fix things, not back to the way they were, but in a different way. Now, obviously, there's some things we'll bring it back to where they were because they were fine, but other things. And so I just want to maybe just pick, and obviously, an answer to this question could go on for again till the cows come home. Just pick, I guess, a couple of ways that you would distinguish between going back to where the way things were and making things better. And I think this is a question that can be both addressed both at the federal level, but also at the Montgomery County level. So the question is for both of you. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. That's a great question. There is a lot of distractions done, and I think so there is like ways to also like work on those. I think so like one of the main thing that the federal cuts that we have been facing with, it's not only on the federal level but also like on the county level, that a lot of the organization that they are currently struggling with it. So of course, again, like the things has to start from the federal and state level, that they provide enough funding to the organizations, and then the places that it got damaged by the Trump administration. So that's the first thing that definitely what we can do to help out. Second thing, which I have personally experienced, like all the hate between the people with each other because of their cultural differences, religion, race. I think so that could be another thing, like bringing all these people by working with them, hosting community events, and telling them that what is the example to be one people and also representing the same people. It could be not only for Montgomery County, but all over the country. I think most of the things that what we have been seeing is just because of the hate that it's created on the international and national level from our upper level. I think so that could be something that we definitely can work on improving. Third one is like ICE. Of course, like the election is by the end of November, like there will be like by January, there will be new council members hopefully in the office. So I think that that's another thing, like working with the like local police and making sure that we have enough resources to protect our immigrant communities, our schools. I have also like recorded a video on this, that like I serve like over thousands of kids, but from Montgomery County around 500, but my number went to around 40 to 50. The only reason is just because they're too afraid to come outside of their home. So maybe bringing that education back towards the people and educating them to know you are right, and make sure that everyone has the voice so they can depend on it. I think so these are the main three things that I would definitely be willing to bring, because these things are some of the things that it would build on Montgomery County and make Montgomery County more safe and welcoming, because we don't have we have people from diverse backgrounds, and we want to be a voice for everyone, not for a particular community. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, last question.
Yeah, so as you know, like living in Montgomery County is super unaffordable. I live in Rockville Town Center, and I was curious about your thoughts on like building, and this is more so for Josie and Arif, but I mean you can answer it too. But like, what are your thoughts on like building more public housing here in MoCo and just in general? Because I think that like rent stabilization is great for like, making sure we are not paying cost will rise too much, but I see the future being like more like building more public housing so that people can actually have a permanent place to stay.
Did, for it, do you want me to respond to your question? So first off, you're right. We could be here till the sun comes up, if we really wanted to dive deep into that. I think the question, flip it back. I think the question, and looking out at the faces in this room, to ask a lot of you, would you say that there's been anything throughout your lives that has really truly worked for you? I mean, how much has the government, have you felt like it's protected you? Have it felt like it's served you? Um, and at any level, right? Whether it's police, whether it's welfare system, education system, as we've heard right here about how, we have to have people come in to provide support through in the community just to shepherd kids through school because our education system isn't supporting them. So I do think there are things that may have worked to some extent, but I don't think it's truly worked for everyone across the board. So and maybe this is the democratic socialist in me, where I come in and I say, there's risk to when you say let's burn it all down, right? Hit reset, start over. That's not without an incredible amount of risk, and vulnerable communities especially would be at that. But I think there's a real opportunity with the new say administration, hopefully in the future a new administration, but with new members of Congress, if the House and the Senate are flipped, to take a step back and hope things. And I hope that we don't have an establishment that still has an iron grip on how legislation is passed, because I think then the status quo will remain the same. But for me, it's pushing conversations and making them uncomfortable, that I'm not going to accept anything short of Medicare for all. Full stop. Like there's no fixing the Affordable Care Act. There's none of it. Like I said, I spent time at the VA. The VA fails veterans, and there's just been headlines grabbing today about changes that Secretary Collins has made. The VA needs to be fixed. Full stop. What that entirely looks like, I don't know. We need to raise the corporate tax rate and force corporations pay their fair share, and close loopholes. Palantir's racking up countless government contracts, $0 in federal tax. Right? That's not right, and that's one example of countless examples. I mean, probably everyone in this room has paid more tax than too many Fortune 500 corporations. So I'm not going to settle for anything less than changes like that. And if that means I have to be a thorn in the side of people like Keem Jeffries, I will. That's what we have to do to make things better and improve the current state. So, but I'll let them respond to your question before a local question.
Josie, you go.
And my apologies for being late. There was a little bit of scheduling snafu on my part. So my deepest apologies for not being here for the entirety of this forum. And I appreciate all of you being here. I'm Josie Caballero. I'm a candidate running for Montgomery County Council at large. I'm sure I'll have a moment to say something at the end. So I'll just go right into addressing your question on housing. Housing is probably the number one issue facing all of us here in Montgomery County. It's actually one of the main reasons why I decided to run, because my family doesn't come from generational wealth. No family member actually owns a home in a major city. And I thought that I was going to be able to buck that trend. Well, I'm still a tenant, buying a home still seems years in the future. I'm gonna be 40 years old next month. So this is a very personal issue for me. So starting with the first part of your framing, which was rent control and rent stabilization, correct? Was that what you said? Okay, great. So fully support and want to fund public housing. And there's a couple reasons why. We have seen probably one of the lowest housing building years last year than we've seen in a long time here in Montgomery County. There was a lot said about, you know, rent stabilization is going to slow building growth, but yet Rockville and Gaithersburg, where they said there would be a boom in housing because it doesn't affect it, did not happen. What we do see from studies across all of the developers and the private developers is the number one reason why they're not building is because they don't make enough money and profit on the bottom line, which translates to me they're not making enough profit on our pain. And so when we see the building costs go up and we see excuse after excuse after excuse on why they're not building, well, it's time for the county to step up and build. I just heard a staggering statistic yesterday that from the police department, 40 to 50% of our police officers live outside the county. And that is not just for police officers, it's also for teachers. It's also for our bus drivers, our community service workers across the board are commuting hours to come to work here in Montgomery County. That is a crisis. We are having a problem retaining our service workers. So what do we do in a crisis? We build. We solve the crisis. We do what is hard now. So I have a background in the US Navy. I was a reactor operator. And my first job before I operated a reactor on the USS Ronald Reagan, I was a damage control. I was a firefighter. And one thing I learned about being a firefighter is that damage control is one of the priorities, because if you do not fix the fire or the flooding, the whole system sinks to the bottom. And that's what we got to do. We got to get out the hoses and we got to start putting out the fire. And that is with public housing. That is also investing in nonprofit development. And it also, and this, I'll take it a step further, that also means taking the property that they're not developing on. We know right now that there's a lot of property that is ready to be developed. Over 27,000 units are in the pipeline to be approved to be built, and not one is getting done. So that property is just sitting there, not being developed. So one of the ways that I want to do it, and I promise, I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit of time because I was a little late, so I want to take this moment here. Vacancy taxes is one of those things that we need to do. Now, vacancy tax is one tool in the toolbox. Now, what if you have approval of building, you know, hundreds of units on a piece of property and you're not building on that? That sounds like vacancy to me. We need to start punishing people who are sitting on property that are not developing and sell it to us. We'll do it because we know how to get it done, and we have the labor and the good workers that are ready to do the job. So yes, and yes, and yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Joey said, and I'm definitely going to be in support of public housing, but not only public housing, making sure that they are affordable and people are willing to move in. When I came to this great country, I did saw both opportunities and gaps. And I was thinking, like, people have been living for 10, 20 years, and how come they had not even bought a house? Why can't they buy and just save the rent and it can go towards the mortgage? But now this is also my family's sixth year, and we are also like, now I'm realizing that how hard it is to buy a home here. And also apart from that, whatever we have been seeing that the rent is increasing, so we definitely need to have some kind of backgrounds and some kind of public housing where people can move in and people have like an opportunity to pick where they want to live again. Like, we have a lot of space here and a lot of land in Montgomery County, but we are not utilizing those properties the right way. Again, there has been concerns showed by a lot of people that the roads are going to get smaller, and how are you guys going to do all those different things? But I think so housing is something that it should be a basic right, even though I know a lot of people are not going to like it, even though there are other places too that where we can build like houses. And there is, like, I was reading a statistic that there is about to be 42,000 or more houses That's not the exact number, probably by 2030th. And we want to make sure that the people who are getting elected, that those houses are affordable and people that they can definitely live in it and they could move in, because the places where we are living in, like the rate of living or like the crisis of living is way too worse here in Montgomery County. Like I would say, like a family each, like they are making, like I've been involved a lot with the immigrant and minority families. They have been working 18, 17 hours in Uber and Lyft, and their rent is around $3,000 or $2,500. How are they going to manage to pay? They're of course getting a negative every single month. So I totally am in support of public housing and I would support it.
We have an entire panel, and I know all these candidates, you can email them, you can get on their website and see their positions, but we're not going to have time for our panel, and so I'm going to stop right here and seat our panel. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm so
Go
sorry.
ahead, you
Thank
have a
you. Yeah, I'll be quick. Okay, so I will just really quickly. I'm Jesse Caballero. Like I said, I'm running for Montgomery County Council. I'm a Navy veteran. I've served at the national, state, and local levels. I've been doing public service for all that time. I used to do reactor operations. Was originally from the state of Texas, and I have been working on public policy across the board. I am currently a commissioner for the state of Maryland for the LGBTQIA plus affairs commission. My professional life, I work as the director of voting elections for Advocates for Trans Equality, and I also am the president of the Transgender American Veteran Association. I've been endorsed by the Teachers Union. I've been endorsed by the DSA. I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, and more to come. We were the #3 fundraiser in this campaign, and we've qualified for public matching, which is incredibly exciting for this campaign, and we've gained a lot of momentum. I'm one of the few candidates in this campaign that's actually running to make rent stabilization stronger and actually holding Rockville and Gaithersburg accountable for skirting the law and not following the law of the land. I've been fighting on a very strong public platform of housing and making sure that we do public housing as well. But I also want to see more transit, because we need to build more transit. And I always think affordable housing is a transit issue, because we have so many people commuting in. If we would actually solve a lot of that transit issue. I also am one of the few candidates that actually says we need to arrest ICE for the illegal actions that they do. If we see them masked, we need to have the police interrogate who they are, figure out what their identification is, and if they can't provide that, then they need to either go or get arrested. I think we can easily start doing this by ticketing their vehicles. I think it's a very simple policy. Their vehicles can't be accounted for. They change their license plates all the time. Let's actually ticket them. I think the tow truck drivers would have a lot of fun. Let's make it happen, right? So those are a few of the things that we have to do. We have to hold them accountable. And I also am huge on education. That's why we got the teacher's endorsement, where I want to make sure we have a county charter amendment that actually funds education at 52% of our county's operating budget. That's currently what it is now. And that way the teachers can stop fighting for their salary year after year and start fighting for the infrastructure for our schools that are crumbling and are shutting down. We have to do the right thing, and we have to fight for the things that are necessary. And then lastly, I want to say this because tax code is very important, because we're leading into a budget deficit this cycle. And one of the things I want to do is we need to change our flat tax system. We need to do a tax bracketed system that actually makes the wealthy pay their fair share and give a break to the people who need it the most. And I would also am fighting with delegates that are either running for office and some delegates that are in office right now to amend Article 15 of the Maryland Constitution, which is the uniformity clause. What that means is that currently when we raise property taxes, we have to raise it across the board, across all property values. That needs to change. We need to amend it so we actually stagger the taxes in a progressive way. So if you have a modest property that is low value, you get a tax break. And if you have a very high dollar property, it's time for you to pay a little more. And I also want to extend that to seniors who are aging in place. They also need a tax break too. So those are a few of the ideas. We need to take destiny into our own hands and actually do a tax system that makes sense for the size of our county and the wealth of our county, so we can actually solve our problems and have the money to build housing and have the money to pay our workers and have the money to expand our services and make our schools the best that they've always been. So I'm Josie Caballero. I'm so sorry I couldn't be here for the whole forum, and I hope that is a general overview of who I am. JosieFromMaryland.com to learn more. Your contributions will match by 5 times. Thank you so much.
Yeah. My website is www.voterifoli.com.
Okay. Give your website.
Oh, it's ethanformd.com. That's the same across all socials as well.
So much. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to seat our panel. I hope you will stay and listen to the panel. And if the panel can come up, please.